Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Monday, November 14th, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, here's the thing. We're going to get started right away. I'm going to open up the charts right here. Michael Snyder is warning that this is the end of times. He says we're facing the collapse of everything. That's because it's an everything bubble. We've went through about a 40-year credit creation cycle that's led to a Goldilocks period in human history that's led to a large increase in the world population, bigger than normal, because of the new credit creation. And the credit creation has come about because they can make as much basically money as they want, but it's not really money, it's credit. Credit is also debt. And if you expand credit, eventually credit's going to contract. This contraction that we're facing is the collapse of everything. And this is true, but I would disagree with one point on here. I don't think this is the end of time or end time. I think this is the beginning time. We're facing something new that's coming along. Look at it like this way. Right now, this world and all the politicians and all the people who are in power, all of your people who are richer than rich, it's all like a toilet that's been used many times and there's not enough water to flush it. And it's got a lot of stuff in there. Hasn't been flushed. What's happening with this is the beginning. This is going to be the flush of that toilet. That's what it's going to be. But it's going to hit everybody. It's going to be the collapse of everything, just like he says. And so, I don't see it as being the end. I see it as something new, something refreshing. We're finally going to get rid of that stink that we smell in the whole world. We're going to replace it with nice, clean, fresh system. That's what's needed. This is what we see in nature. You have all summer, in the fall, the leaves fall off the trees. They fall to the ground and they turn into compost. Compost don't smell good. Then in the spring, you get this new, fresh leaves coming out on the trees and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's move on. I want to take a look at this. Ireland. It says, now just listen, guys. As soon as I saw this, immediately I knew. And you guys should know. What do you know from reading this? It says, Ireland considers enacting a bill criminalizing the possession of hateful material. Okay, let's use our heads. What I first noticed immediately within 5 seconds of reading this, actually instantaneously realized. Can you pick it up? It says criminalizing the possession of hateful material. So the government is going to criminalize the possession of hateful material. Okay, well, I'll tell you what it is, if you haven't picked up on it yet. And give yourself a pat on the back if you picked up on this. What it is the definition of hateful material would be in the government's hands. And that definition could be almost anything. Your children's books, or the children's fairy tale books that you bought that are sitting on the bookshelf. It could be anything that they define, anything at all, as hateful material. Now, sure, whenever they enact a law like this, when they first start, they go by a clear definition of what we would all agree is hateful material. But as years progress, and this is the way government functions, once they have a law in place, then later they abuse the law. The government abuses the law for their own gains, their own profits, and their own agenda, whatever that agenda might be. So this is like the prohibition. They had prohibition in the prohibition era where they made alcohol illegal. We all see how that played out, Anyway, listen, guys, let's move on. We got more topics to talk about. Well, I'm just going to stray just for a minute. I was watching a movie last night, you know. I think it was called The Untouchables or something like that. And in the movie, uh, one group of government agents were trying to stop the people like uh, the gangsters who were trying to sell alcohol during Prohibition, which they made alcohol illegal. So obviously they had to, if they're going to make alcohol illegal, they got to enforce the law. So they get law enforcement officers. So one group were the law enforcement officers who were enforcing the law of Prohibition. So in the movie, this little girl got blown up. Well, it's a very sad tragedy. Terrible. But the mother come up to the officer who was enacting the law of Prohibition. She thanked him and stuff. For basically, because it seemed like he was getting the bad guys off of the street that did the crime or whatever, right? But here's the thing. When you really sit and think about it for a minute, the crime only happened because of the Prohibition itself. In other words, we don't have Prohibition now. Alcohol is totally legal. And so a lot of these crimes that would occur if we went back to Prohibition right now would happen as a result of Prohibition. And that's why the crime happened, was as a result of Prohibition and the ones enforcing Prohibition. So she was thanking the person that was actually responsible, probably, for what happened to her little daughter. But she can't possibly realize that because the way it looked from her perspective, you see, and it's sad and everything else, but the more we move toward total control over everything, make everything illegal in the world, the more crime we're going to create because people, they just can't live that way, ultimately. And so that crime will be, and then the law enforcement that tries to stop that crime is just basically helping things along to a really screwed up system. And this is just more turds in the toilet, as far as I'm concerned. We got to straighten all this up. I mean, the world is just descending toward utter chaos, and that utter chaos itself will straighten it up. But what is, like, if we look at this last thing that we're looking at here, the collapse of everything, what also does that entail? You get the collapse of everything as a result of this chaotic system that we have. And that's going to straighten it up, and it will. It'll either do one of two things. It'll either straighten it up, or it'll be the end of humanity because we'll go extinct. But I don't think we're going to go extinct. I think it will straighten it up, I think, ultimately. But what does it all entail? It entails it entails the end of this Goldilocks period where the population has increased exponentially in the world to where it is now 8 billion people. It involves a dramatic decrease in the population. Possibly, if things go wrong in this period too, it could involve the extinction of our species. And I mean, that would surround how things are handled, like things involving nuclear, how those things are handled during this crisis, whether we go extinct or not, you know. And also, the second thing that needs to be handled properly is diseases. And an awful lot of these diseases are lab created nowadays. They have the technology. They call them bioweapons. How these things are handled. Because if they're handled wrongly, these WMDs, and I consider them all WMDs, anything nuclear, basically in my mind is a WMD at the get-go. Even if it's used for power creation, it's just like fission. Nuclear fission is just such a dirty thing. If it gets, look at the harm it can create. I mean, for generations it can pollute. I mean, it's trying to, it's very dangerous, but at the same time, they've created that because of mismanagement of our resources and stuff, have created a situation where they feel like they need to use more nuclear power instead of less. We should be, at this point in time, if we had been careful and if we had run the world the way it should be run, orderly, we would already have no need for nuclear power. We could have, I mean, we have the technology out there enough where we could have been self-sufficient for power worldwide, not reliant on oil either. If the world was run in an orderly fashion and we didn't have gangsters in control. Anyway, I'm straying from the topic matter here. Let's get on and take a look at the silver price today. And we're seeing this increases in the price of silver and gold. Gold and silver now are starting to prove themselves as being the winner. You guys who picked gold and silver in the race are doing better than the guys who picked crypto right now at this point in time. Silver's up again today, 20 cents at 21.90. It's getting ready to go past 22 bucks. This could be the beginning of something big, because it really takes a lot of effort to create an ounce of silver. One of the biggest amount of efforts to create an ounce of silver is crushing rock. Believe it or not. Hauling the rock out of the ground and crushing it to a powder. Stones. Crushing them to powder. Takes a lot of work, a lot of energy. Diesel fuel is mostly required to crush rocks into powder. Diesel fuel and electricity. And it takes a lot of it, because it takes several hundred pounds of rocks to make your ounce of silver. And heat. Then after they crush all the rocks to powder, it takes heat, a lot of heat. So there you go. And that's why it's going up, because that's a lot involved for the real thing. And they just can't keep suppressing this paper price of silver even. Even the paper price of silver is going up. But the premiums are going up as well. And it's in short supply. So silver's a big winner. It's going to be a big winner. It's still going to be a big winner. Right now, you're going to look at these prices. Premiums included. And you're going to say in the future, hey, what a bargain that was. When silver's approaching what the price of gold is now per ounce. So basically what I'm saying is at some point probably in the future, and we're not talking in 50 years from now either, just a few years from now, your silver is going to transform itself into gold, basically price-wise. And you're going to be awful glad you got it. And you're going to look at these prices today, and they're not going to matter that much whether it's 22 or 26 or 28. It's all going to be relative. What's really going to be important is that you have it. Anyway, take a look at gold right here. And gold is going up too today, even though it says it's down 10 cents, but it's at 1771. Looking good. Cryptocurrency today, not doing so good. 834, but don't give up on Bitcoin and Ethereum and your favorite coins. I mean, I probably would give up if you're buying a coin that's way down here on the list, like number 805 or something like that. But if you got one of the top coins here, I think they're going to come back, but only when the currency starts to die. That's when they're really going to come back. And you could argue that the currency's dying now, and yeah, it's true. The currency is dying. I mean, fiat currencies are dying, but they're offering, the central banks of the world right now are offering them a certain amount of support by raising rates and doing quantitative tightening. The Central Bank of the United States is offering the most support to the dollar primarily. Well, you got the BRICS countries out there, and they're just breaking themselves away from dollar usage in the world, or whatever. They're going to use their own system, their own whatever. They've got their own version of the World Bank. They got their own version of SWIFT that they're creating. They got everything. They're creating a new system, a East versus West. Anyway, take a look now at the Dow Jones Industrial Average at 33,818. It's up 70 today. We're going to take a look at crude oil. and it is down 80 cents on the day so far, 88.16. The move index today, and we've seen it drop now below its it was following this slowly going up all year. Now it's dropped down below that. To match that where it's been going all year, it would have to probably be around 120, and it's down to 111. So it could take a big zoomie right back up again, and go right back up to like 160. We're just gonna have to wait and see on that. But this is an indicator of your credit markets, what's going on behind the scenes in the credit markets, and it's showing down low like this. It's showing stability in the credit markets. That stability right now, because of what the Fed's doing, could disappear in a flash. Look at what happened to the BOE, the Bank of England. How that instability crept in overnight into the system, and they had to handle it. The same thing could happen in the American system, bonds and rates today, we're seeing rising yields. 3.89 on the 10 year, 3.88 on the 10 year, and 4.06 on the 30 year. And we're up 5.3 basis points on the 10 year, and we're up 1.7 basis points on the 30 year. And now we'll finish off the show by looking at the dollar index. Dollar index is basically going along. It's climbed just a little bit today. It's basically, excuse me, it's basically going along sideways. Well, thank you guys for listening to the show. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification icon, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.